Hi, I'm Leanne Adams, Certified Master Baker, and welcome to the CMB Study Hall. We're making baguettes. Okay, so our bulk ferment has ended. Timer went off. Usually we don't want to go past about an hour and a half, but you're going to have to watch your dough and pay attention to it and give it a little more or a little less depending on how it's doing. We're going to go into dividing and pre-shaping, so I'm going to flour the bench lightly and turn my dough out. And it is really nicely gassed, so the fermentation is moving, the gluten is nice and relaxed. We're ready to go. For the baguettes, I'm going to divide at 350 grams. Your dividing weight, you will have to figure this out based on the final weight that the test is looking for. So this is something you'll have to practice and figure out how much moisture loss is going to happen during the baking process. You want to keep your dough in larger pieces. You don't want to hack at it and get a bunch of small pieces. So we're going to come in close, not quite. $350, there we go. In this stage, you want to get through fairly quickly because the dough can over ferment at this point. Oh, big one. You want to work with these in the order that you did them. So I'm going to set up a spot where I can bench rest these. So we go divide, pre-shape, bench rest. You go right in. I'm going to just degas these a little bit, and I'm going to roll them over and create a skin on the top. It's an oblong shape because baguettes are long and narrow. You don't want squares. You want them to be a little oblong. And the amount of tension you're going to put on that piece of dough is up to you. So if your dough feels like it's not tense enough, it's lacking a little strength, you can come in and do a tighter fold over. And if your dough feels a little aggressive, a little strong, you can do a very loose one. So again, just a really light degas, and I'm just barely rolling this over. And once I'm done, I'm going to cover these guys with some plastic so they don't get a skin on them. From here on out, you have to be very protective that you don't get a skin on your dough. If you do get a skin, you're going to wind up with a mark in the dough that you'll be able to see throughout the process. I'm going to dust them lightly and put a cover on them. And this step now, we're into bench rest. This is just a period where you're going to let the gluten relax after dividing and shaping, usually about 20 minutes. And we'll come back and do final shaping at that point. All right, so it's been 20 minutes and our bench rest is completed. We're going to go into final shaping. You want to make sure you have, again, your mise en place set up. I have proofing boards and couches ready to go. So we're going to get started. We want to keep our order. The first one we did will be the first one we're going to shape. Keep this covered. You don't want to get a skin on it. And I have a yardstick out to help me determine length. We want these 21 inches long. I'm going to go upside down in the flour and come out. I'm going to degas a little bit, just a tiny bit, and I'm going to fold over about 2/3 of the way. Spin the dough, come back over about 2/3 of the way, and I'm being very gentle at this point. Think about this like you would think about like touching a puppy or a small child. Really gentle. And then I'm going to use my thumbs and fold that seam over and seal it with the heel of my hand. This is the only time I'm fully degassing the dough, is right at that edge. You'll see people whack it dough. We don't want to do that. You're looking for large air bubbles in the dough, so we want to keep the dough nice and aerated. I'm going to put my hands on the bench in a cup shape. Again, I don't want to flatten the dough out. I'm going to start rolling the baguette out. Start from the middle out. You want to try to keep it even. If you find you've got a hump in the middle, you can work just on that spot. Your ends are up to you, whether you want to leave them rounded or you want to take them out to points. That's your choice. But whatever you pick, you're picking the same thing for all of them. And we're looking for 21 inches, and then they're going on the couche. So I'm going to pull the couche just a couple of inches off the edge. And you can put them seam down or seam up. So right now I have seam down. I'm just going to double check since I picked it up. I'm still at 21. I'm a little long, so you can scooch it back a bit. And then I'm going to pull the couche up. 2 fingers. Pull the couche up so that it's about covering halfway on the top. The couche does a couple of things. It cradles the baguette so that when it goes into final fermentation, it doesn't go this way, it stays rounded. It creates a round shape. And it also manages the moisture coming off the baguette. Couches are French linen, and they manage moisture really well. So if there's too much, it'll pull it away. If it's not enough, it'll keep it right close to the baguette. So again, 2/3. There's a million ways to make a baguette. I'm not saying mine is right. This is just how I do it. Again, 2/3, and then I'm going to catch that seam with my thumb and fold this completely over. So I'm sending the seam to the middle, sealing the baguette. Cupped hands, roll it out. I have a weird end there. Most people will have one side or the other they're better at. Your dominant hand, usually your non-dominant hand's a little weird. You'll have to work at it. I'm going to catch the seam, seam down. Once you get one baguette in, you can use it to gauge the length of the rest of them. If you would like, you can flour a couche and put your baguettes in the flour so that you get a floured top to your baguette. I put some flour on and rubbed it into the couche. And then I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to put seams up. So my goal is to get the top of the baguette floured. So these are seam up. And this way the top will be sitting in the flour and it will pick up the flour from the couche as it proofs. If you're sticking to the bench, you need a little flour. If you're sliding on the bench, that means you need a little water on the wood. Depending on where you are in the humidity, I have a spray bottle next to me. So if you find yourself not able to get enough tension to the bench, you can spray a little water on it. And from here, we're going into final fermentation. You have choices. You could put the baguettes in the proof box, or you could proof them at room temperature as long as they're covered. The baguettes will go a little faster in the proofer than room temperature usually. So if you're trying to get this whole thing sped up a little bit, you're a little behind, I would go to the proofer. Room temp's a little more forgiving. So if you think you're going to get to a point where maybe I've got a couple of things happening at one time, I'd pull them out and leave them at room temp covered. they're not going to move as fast, so if you're a little bit late getting to them, they'll be forgiving. And I have a speed rack that has a cover on it. You can use one of these, or you can pull a rack cover on it. Once you cover your baguettes up with the couche, you can just leave them at room temp or put them in the proofer. They're gonna be in anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour usually. And again, keep an eye on them. You're in a different environment. They may move a little faster than you're used to. Okay, so it's been about 50 minutes and our baguettes are ready to go in the oven. You can tell by touching them and just a light pressure, and you can see that I'm leaving a little bit of an indent. So they are ready to go in the oven. I'm gonna peel them in. You can use a loader or you can peel them in. Because I'm peeling, I'm putting a little bit of semolina flour down on the peel board. That'll act as a little bit of slide. It'll give it a little bit of slide. Transfer peel. I'm going to take the couche in one hand and the transfer right at the baguette, and I'm just going to lift it up and over. And then I'm going to let it fall back over. There's one. These are now seamed down. So these are the baguettes I had seamed down to start with, and I'm going to keep them seamed down. And once they're on here, you can straighten them and adjust them. And then I also have the baguettes that we put on the floured couche. I'm going to put 4 on the peel board at a time. These guys are sitting right side up, so these guys come off this way. You scooch them off, okay? Before you score, you need to know whether your oven has enough steam capacity to pre-steam the deck and then steam after they're in the deck. And if they don't, you want to mist them, get some moisture on the surface, score them, load them, and use your one shot of steam in the oven once they're in. So you can get around that if you don't have a lot of steam capacity. We're good here. All right, we're going to score them. We want 5 scores. Evenly spaced, length of the score is the same, and you can do this 2 ways. You can get your wrist bent way back, long score, come back about 2/3 of the way. Long score, 2/3 of the way. You're staying on the top of the baguette. You don't want to be cutting the sides. That's like cutting the walls of your house. You'll lose all your structure. So 1, come back, 2, come back, 3, come back, 4, come back, 5, come back. My wrist is really pulled back. Or you can do this, I call this monkey hands, and get your elbow up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to be quiet because I can't talk and score at the same time. I'm going to pre-steam the oven. Getting some moisture in there. Wait for it to be done. Don't open the door, you'll burn yourself. You can hear it. And I want to put these into the oven as far to the back as I can get without hitting the back of the oven. I'm going to shut the door for right now and get the second one in. One of the benefits of using the loader is you can put all 8 of your baguettes, or a full deck load of baguettes, on at one time. Once this goes in, I'm going to hit the steam button again. Depending on your oven, you may need to set your oven a little higher than what you want to bake. The opening the doors, adding the steam, that's going to drop your oven temp. So I'm at 500 right now. I don't want to bake that high. I'm going to bring it down to about 469, 470. And this oven also has the ability to control top heat versus bottom heat. I've worked in this oven before. I know that I'm going to set this on a middle range of heat and the top on a high range of heat. I have it set for 21 minutes. At that point, I'm probably going to need to come in and vent and let some of the moisture out of the oven so the crust can establish itself well. And then I also want to come in a little early and start checking my weights. This is a weighted item, so I want to come in, take a bake weight, see if I need to leave them in the oven a little bit longer or pull them, and we'll be back in about 20 minutes to take a look at the baguettes and see how they're doing.